What you did yesterday will get you the type of results that you had yesterday, but you can't do that tomorrow. And I generally don't walk around and tell everybody, oh, because of COVID, because that just seems to be, again, this is just my perception, the great excuse.
And so in the current situation, you mentioned that, businesses should stop thinking that, this is the time for them to shrink, but start thinking of it as an opportunity. For me, I think COVID is more like the great equalizer. You see all these influencers, all these celebrities now having one-on-one conversations, or actually having their shows from setups not unlike our own. So it's like everybody's the same now. So Apple is selling their phones from the website, same as any mom and pop shop is selling their stuff online. So I think this is a huge opportunity for businesses as a whole to utilize digital marketing instead of spending their money on events and other ways that they were able to measure the feedback. So where do you think you come in to kind of explain that advantage to businesses, and how does that work with them?
Yeah, one of the things that I talk to everybody about, great question, by the way, is what you did yesterday will get you the type of results that you had yesterday, but you can't do that tomorrow. And I generally don't walk around and tell everybody, oh, because of COVID, because that just seems to be, again, this is just my perception, the great excuse. Everybody says, I've got to close, or I can't do this, I can't do that because of COVID. Well, let's shift our thought here for a little bit. One of the examples I use is I used to work at a ski area and out in Colorado, and we had a season where it was 50 degrees in December. Not a flake of snow was falling. We didn't close the resort. We didn't lay off a bunch of people. We had to make a pivot. We had to make an adjustment on how we did our business so that people would continue to come. So we focused on some of our fall activities still. We opened up the mountain bike trails. We did some events in the base area, and that got some people to come. While we didn't make the same amount of money that we would from hotel stays, we were still able to make some money. So when I talk to my customers about what's going on now, I say, hey, now is the time for us to pivot, and let's really think outside the box. We're having a conversation like this virtually instead of me sitting in front of you, or I am in front of you, and we're wearing a mask and we're rubbing elbows. But let's take a look at where we are today. Right now, you've got 20 new patients a week, and that's a great number. But you want to get to 27. So let's figure out how we can get to that 27. While before, maybe you did some local events, or you went to the local Lions Club picnic and advertise yourself that way. Let's figure out ways that we can talk to people now. What are people doing? And what we have found, and I'm going to use that as an example, is people are still getting exercise. Even though we're talking about social distancing, I found there's a lot of places that are still, a lot of people that are still playing softball. And in that particular example, the clinic is near the softball field. I'm like, hey, put up a sign. How many people slide the second base and hurt their ankle, So we're using a few more guerrilla marketing tactics. The other example I used, and I read this, it was a poem that I received from a client of mine a couple of weeks ago, but it was entitled The Man Who Sold Hot Dogs. And long story short, is about a guy, an older gentleman, complete fiction, who was on the side of the street selling hot dogs. And he didn't realize that the world was in a tough space because he was hard of hearing, so he didn't listen to the radio, and he's hard of seeing, so he didn't buy the newspaper. But his college son came home and said, Dad, you can't be doing this. There's a pandemic. You shouldn't be doing this. He goes, oh, wow, you're right. There's a pandemic. I didn't know that. You're the college kid. I'm going to pull back my orders of buns and pull back my order of hot dogs. Next thing you know, his business went south. So I use that as an example and say, if you take this as an opportunity, put your foot forward and think outside the box, you can grow. And that being the case, I've got a real estate agent colleague of mine who recognized during this time a lot of traditional media folks are dropping their prices because they are dying for business. He swooped in there with his small business loan, bought up all this inventory of TV commercials, radio commercials, print commercials, even outdoor billboards, and they are blowing up. They are expanding. They're hiring more agents. So they're using this as an opportunity to pivot and say, okay, the new normal is doing things virtually. Let's do some virtual showings, and their business is continuing to thrive. Long answer to a short question, but yeah, I'm pretty inspired by that.